Welcome to case study number 3. This one's going to be a little bit different. So let me give you a little bit of pre-announcement for case study 3, and then we'll dive in to number 1, which is the case summary. So first of all, I want you to know that this week, when I talk you through the case study, it's going to be less about learning new concepts and me talking through exactly what's going on with Mariana, and more about me pointing you directly to our resources and our materials for this week. There's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, Mariana's case study is a little bit shorter, and I want you guys to dig into that a little bit more independently. But number two, much of what we're doing this week is a review for you, and I'm hoping that's a relief. Your MDE module number 4 about FAPE and how it's directly tied into the PLAF is something you've done maybe before in an assessment course. Maybe you've heard it before, but we've read about it before, we've talked about it before. It's part of IDEA, and I'm hoping it's a little bit more of a review. The second thing is that review is very purposeful. We're kind of on a spiral, working our way through this introduction to special education. I'm hoping you'll hear concepts all the time on that spiral so that you really get a chance to apply them and to know them more deeply. In that vein, I would expect that, this is good news, that your answers are a bit shorter this week. While that's good news, I'm expecting that while your answers are a bit shorter, you are using deeper thought and more evidence from our resources and our materials. I think that's going to make more sense as we move on, but remember that. Maybe a little bit shorter answers, but make sure they're tied to what you've really thought about and tied deeply to our evidence. So let's talk a little bit about your case summary. I'm not going to give you what I think are problems and issues. I want you to come up with those on your own. I want you to make sure you've read your chapter 4 and done your MDE module first. The article that I assigned you, it's all about the Andrew F. and Rowley cases. It's called Ensuring Educational Benefit. That one's a little deeper. I asked you to skim that one, but this is really coming straight from your knowledge from chapter 4 and the MDE IEP module. It's difficult, and I'm expecting a lot of different answers for this case study because especially what they talked about in chapter 4. We're talking about the subjective part of Mariana's IEP and educational plan, not the objective, not the easily defined, but the subjective part. What is appropriate for Mariana? We're not talking about the procedural that ties to the objective. We're not talking about the procedures. You notice there's not a lot of details in here about procedures. We're talking about that substantive part of the IEP, which they spend a lot of time on in chapter 4. I'm going to pop up a slide after this to help you kind of put that into perspective when it comes to the laws and to the cases surrounding these. The subjective part comes from Rowley, the Rowley case in 1982. And I really liked the comparison that Rowley stated in 1982. An IEP does not provide a student with a disability the Cadillac model, the ultimate wonderful model of education, when a serviceable Chevrolet model would do. That's kind of Rowley in a nutshell. And then we also have to consider Andrew in 2017, when they said, no, you're not going to define it by cars. You're not going to define it in a large way. The new laws, I shouldn't say laws, the new cases and data that came out from Andrew in 2017 is that, yes, we need to pull some of the Rowley court case through, but it's a case-by-case basis, and you have to measure an IEP and a student's situation on 2 things. One, are we compliant with IDEA? And that's the procedural and the objective part, the part that's easy to figure out. And 2, does the school district have a plan that's reasonably calculated to make appropriate progress considering the student's unique needs? That's that subjective, substantive. That's what you have to figure out this week. So concentrate there. I'm not looking for a lot of material use other than it'll help you define it as long as you know it for this first part. But you need to make sure you're addressing your concerns around FAPE.